Hello again. This is Mark Terry. I'm the Deputy Executive Director at TEPSA, and I want to thank you for joining me for another update on what's going on at the Capitol. I know I always have to apologize. Why do I always have to start off by apologizing? But I know it's been a couple weeks, but it's been a very, very busy session. Lots of hours. I think I told you about my 2:40 a.m. testimony. I've had a couple more that were pretty late, not that late. None of them quite got to that record, but late nights it is. Wanted to start off with just telling you a little bit about what's going on at the Capitol. One good thing, open carry bills, not the bills, but it's kind of like a bathroom bill. There's so much consternation, so much debate, so much argument, so much protests that it kind of clogs the works up. That's what we want. We want to clog up some of those bad bills. It's really what the session's set up. The legislators set up to do is to block bills, and that's what we want. Okay, so the open carry bill, really wild down there. I mean, there were some strange folks and some not so strange folks, but some odd folks uh, t- testifying on that. Then there were some voting rights bills. Oh my goodness, you're taking away all of our freedoms. We're protecting your freedoms. Nobody can vote. Everybody can vote. So another great way to clog up the works. There'll be some small. I think there'll be some incremental change on some of our voting, but most of it's already in place. Okay. Another one was a camping bill. That's a camping ban in cities. Uh, and that's generated out of Austin, where there's been a resurgent of tent cities because the city council 2 years ago said no more camping ban. You can camp. Well, first they were camping anywhere, and then they started camping near City Hall. So, well, no, not there. And then they could camp in parks. Well, you're not supposed to be camping in parks, but well, they still are. There were some horrendous stories about people who've been brutalized in those camps, about near schools, lots of kind of stuff. But that took up a lot of oxygen in the room. Again, not a bad thing. So there's bills that are going through that have clogged up a lot of stuff. There's some bad bills that are trying to go through. There's some good bills we're trying to get through. So not like everything is bad, but there's a lot of bad and some good. Okay. But just want to tell you about a little snippet that happened today or happened last week at one of the public education House Public Education Committee meetings. This was a bill to vote out pending bills. So what happens is you go testify on a bill. They listen to the testimony, and usually what happens, except for one time I did, usually what happens is they will leave the bill pending in committee. Okay. Then they will bring that bill up later and vote it out. And so what they will do is they'll have a meeting, bills pending, they're going to vote out, and then they'll go to uh, a, one of the rooms and they will vote them all out. It's usually the Agricultural Museum, I think, is where they usually have it, and they will vote them all out one by one. So they get to the meeting. Well, uh, Chairman Dutton is the chair of that committee, and Representative Mary Gonzalez wanted to start off the meeting by making a comment. And he said, "You're not recognized at this time." Well, that's kind of unusual in itself because they always say, "Yes," or "I yield to the gentle lady," something like that. But she said again, I need to share something. And he said, "You're not recognized at this time." But one of the other representatives took up for her, said, "Hey, I think we really need to hear what she's got to say." And he said, "You're not recognized at this time." Well, the whole room, and there were probably 40 or 50 people in there, the whole room's like, "Whoa, what is going on here?" Well, it seems like some of the members have voted against the chairman's bills, and they feel like he's not allowing their bills to come up because they voted against his. So a little retribution going on. So at the very end of the meeting, after they had voted all the pending bills out, he says, "You're now recognized." And she stated this, and he slammed down and said, and he walked out, said something, and walked out. That is really breaking decorum, but I think it kind of gives you an idea that I don't know what's going on there. I don't know whether it's past history. I don't know whether it's payback. I don't know whether it's the stress of the session. I don't know whether he feels like it's not true. Whatever. It was very interesting to watch that. But let's talk about a few bills. House Bill 287. That's a counselor bill, along with Senate Bill 179 and House Bill 589. Well, 287 talks about how you hire your counselors. It's a ratio kind of setup. Not a good one, but you've heard me talk about that one. House Bill 179 and 589, that is the use of your counselor's time. And it says 80-20 split, 80% on counseling duties, 20% on other duties. Well, I have been adamant that principals need the opportunity, need the ability to use their personnel where it's needed, especially in small and rural schools. I had a school where it was me and the counselor. I tell you, it's tough. And if everybody's not pulling together, everybody's not pitching in, it makes it difficult for the kids and the parents and the teachers. Okay. So I had one of the representatives of the Counseling Association call me last week, which I appreciated. Thank you. And asked me why, just wanted to find out where you were on this bill and why y'all I was opposing it. So I told them about that. I told them about I want my counselor out in the halls. I want them at drop off and pickup duty. I want them walking around the lunchroom. I want them on the playground, because you don't learn about the child, the relationship with other children. Maybe he's been ostracized. You don't know about the relationship between the parent and the child unless you see them in action. And you don't see that sitting in the counselor's office counseling the student. You see it out in the school. So limiting that time means that that's going to cut down on the time where they really get to know the child. And so for that reason, and several others, micromanaging being one, I don't agree with it. It's just not there, and I'm not going to go for it. So I think that the Senate bill, which passed, Senator Lucio's 179, is now going to come over to the House side, and it's going to go to Pub Ed, and I'm going to go testify against it. And then they're going to make fun of me, but hopefully it won't pass. Okay. Then there's the lobby bill, House Bill 749. That's been heard, is sitting in committee pending, but it's in House State Affairs. Now, I testified against this bill. It was late when I testified, but I did get to say I'm against the bill. I didn't get to talk about it much because that was the 2:40 a.m. deal. Remember that? Okay, so I got a call from State Affairs. Then they invited me over. Each of these committees has a little. They have a committee room where they have staff members in there that kind of put together all the bills and put them in order and that kind of stuff. And they also find out information from people. So they called me. I went over, met with them, had a great talk about why the lobby bill is problematic for our association. I don't think it's, well, how will it hurt it? I said, well, it won't kill us. It'll hurt us because 80% of our members have their district pays a portion of all or a portion of their membership, which isn't much, but they pay us some of it. And so my argument to them was, look, what you're saying is that you want a principal, elementary principal, to take off a day of their personal day, because you can't be on school, take a personal day, drive 8 hours, which some of ours would have to do, 4, 8, whatever, sit all day, get there at 8, register, wait for their bill to come up, testify at 2:40 in the morning, drive home, and be ready for school. It's not a good use of public money. Whereas I am, pennies on the dollar, technically a lobbyist. I've got little quotes going on, lobbyist, but I'm a retired principal with no money, no PAC, no donations to campaigns, not much of a lobbyist. All I have to offer is how it's going to impact a school. One of the legislators said, well, if I want to know from my constituents if I want to know from my principal, I'm going to call them up Well, my challenge on a Twitter was, how many principals have had their legislator call them up unrequested, just call them up and talk to them about how a bill is going to impact their school? And I got one out of all of 5,500 principals, one. They're not going to be calling you to find out how a bill is going to impact you. You're going to have somebody to follow these bills and speak up for you. So that's House Bill 179 or 749. Sorry, 749. You'll get a blast from me about that. Well, let's talk about a few other bills. House Bill 207. This is one we testified for. It's called the Turnaround Principal Endorsement. Okay, so on your credentials, on your certificate, you could get an endorsement about a turnaround principal. And what we're doing is we're going to work with, hopefully, TEA in development of the training that goes in for your endorsement for a turnaround principal. I have our members, we have a number of members who are turnaround principals and have done great jobs in turning around struggling schools. Perfect for you guys. I would have gone for that. I would have wanted my endorsement. House Bill 1249. Accessibility of charter financials. Okay, I testified against this bill, and they said, well, they're already there. I said, well, there's the Charter Management Organization that, they can put money in it. It's not reported. So I want just get it out there, okay? School districts do it, social charters. Then there's House Bill 4545. This is a really bad bill. It ties scores to funding. Now, why? Remember that turnaround principal endorsement? Why would you want to take a struggling school and have the scores when you're first starting out tied to funding? Now, that's tied for funding of the district, but the districts are going to suffer under something like this, especially if you're going to go superintendent going in or board going in and wanting to turn around a bunch of struggling schools. And I'm not saying failing schools, because we ain't got that many failing schools. I don't know what they're talking about. They must find the only failing school they can find, but we don't have that many. But that is a bad way to fund. Let's just fund our schools, okay? Forget about all that stuff. Fund the school. Then Senate Bill 411, another one that I testified for. It's by Senator West. And all this bill says is that if you need to have an open meeting, like a school board meeting, in proximity to the school. I don't care if you're a charter, it has to be in proximity to the school. Now, you know that some charters are out of California, some are out of Florida, New York. You might have one, you might have the headquarters in Louisville, but you're in Corpus. But so you need to have an open board meeting, close proximity to the school. Then it needs to be videotaped. It needs to be online. You have to have it online. Okay. Well, I testified for it. I'm an open government kind of guy. Let's get it all out there. A charter representative talked about how difficult that was and how the capability of the small school to do that is just too hard. And Senator West said, well, I'll work with you on that. Well, I went back to Senator West's office and I said, okay, I'm not understanding this. Let's fix the bill by putting an or in there. You either meet in person or you have a live meeting online where you can have dialogue. Put the or in there. And if they have trouble and they can't figure it out, we just spent 6 hours before that bill talking about virtual schools and how wonderful they were and how successful, and it got to everybody all over the state, blah, 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 blah. If the school can do it, surely this charter corporation can figure out how to work a Zoom, okay? $29 a month, a Zoom meeting where they can set the computer up, turn on the Zoom, and the parent can talk and file their grievances, talk about the positives, talk about the problems they're having in school. It really irks me that adults can't figure out, wait a minute, maybe they don't want to have it open. That might be it, okay? Lastly, I know I'm going long. Raise Your Hand Texas is doing a great job I love Raise Your Hand Texas. We coordinate with them on a lot of stuff. They're doing a great job with pointing out that the stimulus money from the federal government is not flowing to the schools. Like 44 other states can figure out how to get the money, which was meant for schools, is recovering from the stimulus, recovering from the pandemic, and they send it right to the schools. So what does Texas do? We hadn't received any of it. That's $18 billion that we have not received any from the state. That's supposed to be flow through money, and it's not being used. I would suspect it's going to plug up the budget. So they're going to, instead of, that's called supplanting. So instead of funding your school and then putting that money on top, it means using that money to do their own budget. That's wrong. That's not what it's for, and it needs to stop. And Raise Your Hand Texas is bringing this to the front. And if you follow me, you're going to get some information on how to call your legislator and tell them what to say. Heck, you don't even have to know what to say. Just give the schools the money. That's what it's for. Okay. So, hey, I'm going to go ahead and sign off because I'm getting too worked up again. Whew, getting hot in here. Let me give you my email. It's mark@tepsa.org. mark@tepsa.org. Just give me a holler if you want me to answer some questions or you want me to cover something. You want me to do a little lesson on the legislature. Be glad to do that. And my Twitter account is @TEPSA Mark. TEPSA Mark. Okay. Love talking to you guys. I want to hear from you. Let me know what's happening in your school. Let me know what you want me to talk about. So with that, I am going to sign off. Thank you so much.